Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I am your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Chase Johnson, who is the owner of Bloom Creativ. Chase, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Would you like to just kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the business that you're in?
Yeah, so my name is Chase Johnson. I own a video production company called Bloom Creativ, and we exist to give companies, brands, and foundations a voice. So that's done through a variety of mixed media, ranging from short social content to a full-blown like brand documentary kind of style video. But we hang out a lot in the commercial and corporate space and do some nonprofit work as of recent as well.
Oh, nice. So what inspired you to start your own business, or what was that initial spark that led you to take that leap of business ownership?
Yeah, I was actually, it's kind of an interesting story because I was going to college and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I could not wrap my head around what I wanted to do as an entrepreneur. And like school has always steered me to go, a very traditional route. So I knew there was a lot of jobs out there that I didn't know existed. So I ended up getting hired freshman year of college at a trucking company. And the trucking company, I got hired as a recruiter. So I was told to smile and dial, and I would call truck drivers all day. And as you can imagine, like you do that for 40 hours a week for a month straight, it's like you start to run out of bandwidth a little. But we came up with this thing. I had a good relationship with the founders and owners of the business. And we came up with this thing called the driver experience. And what the goal of that was to create content around these truck drivers and put them on a pedestal. So we would do truck stop food reviews. We would do just win baby moments of the week. We would do giveaways. We had a little like sitcom, like kind of a fun little office thing called Trucker Bros. So we had all this content that we were putting out, and I was in charge of like shooting, producing, editing, posting all the content. And the trucking company actually grew from about 10 to 15 truck drivers all the way up to about 20 to 25 truck drivers. And the founders ended up selling it for an exit. Now, there was a bunch of things that happened there, but what I got out of the sale when we sold the trucking company, I was like, wow, I am realizing like that there's value behind the video production side of things. So I was like, oh, let's go and start doing this for other companies. And the goal was to continue to give companies, brands, and foundations a voice, because that's really what we did. Like looking back and reflecting on the trucking stuff, like we gave those truck drivers a voice that they never had. Truck drivers are notoriously not listened to. They're notoriously told to drive here, told to pick up this. And as soon as we started listening to them and giving them the voice that they wanted, they stuck around. So today we take that same exact blueprint and apply that to every brand, foundation we work with.
Oh, cool. So you've just been in business just for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Had you started up a business before, or run your own business before?
So yeah, I actually did a few things and I learned a lot through everything. My first ever business was in high school. I owned a company, a pool cleaning company. My family had a pool. We had a pool cleaner. So I was like, oh, I'll do a pool cleaning company. And it's still joked around in my family. It's called Pure Pleasure Pools. That was the name of the company. And it kind of made sense. I mean, it's just like it's pure pleasure. All you do is just swim and you don't have to worry about cleaning or take care of the pool. So I did that, made a crappy logo. And then I did some sales online, some Amazon FBA stuff for a little bit. Really kind of struggled with that, but my focus wasn't really there. And then as soon as I started Bloom, it was just like I had learned so much from the ups and downs of various businesses that I had been part of, or created, I guess, and just wanted to make sure that this one, I took all that stuff and kind of just made it as best as I could, if that makes sense.
So in those first two little business startups that you were doing, right? What were some of the things you learned with each one of those that you applied to Bloom Creativ when you first got going?
Well, I think the first thing I learned when I was doing the pool business was like I had a really good like connection with all of my clients. Like my clients would trust me. I mean, I had clients that would leave me a blank check, buy the pool cleaner, taped to the back of the pool cleaner or something. And I'd go there and I could have written that check for whatever. So there was a lot of trust involved. And I feel like I was like sociable enough to communicate well. And then that was great. And then I started the FBA stuff and I kind of took that superpower like away, you know? So now it's like, okay, now you're just communicating through marketing, you're communicating through a brand. And I didn't know a lot about building a brand. So the logo and the name of the brand, it didn't really have a purpose. The content really wasn't that good. So I feel like I learned a lot on that side of things of like, wow, you know, a good brand can take you so much further. And I kind of applied those two things as like, okay, well, now I'm doing video production. I'm facing my clients. I can communicate with my clients. I can provide good service to their face. Now I need to pair a good brand with that. And once I paired those two things together, things just really started to go well. I'll never forget when I left and quit my day job and started doing Bloom. I remember I doubled my income the first month, and I was like, I thought I would have to pick up a secondary job. And the first month it was just like off to the races. And I never thought it would be like that, to be honest. I thought I would be struggling for a good amount of time. But
was there anything that cropped up in that first year that you just kind of weren't expecting when as you were getting your business up and going?
yeah, I think, let me think. I think when I started my business, I had this idea in my brain that, because in the video production world, like I always knew I didn't want a ton of employees. And my goal was like, oh, I'll just sub in everyone, right? So like I'll get a big project and I'll sub in a secondary shooter and I'll sub in an editor and I'll sub in a drone guy. And I started off doing that, and you quickly realize that the pie gets eaten up pretty quickly. And so I guess that was maybe something I learned right away, was like that although is sustainable for some people, for me, it was just like you would have to do so much volume to make that work, you know, because you're paying this person 1,000, this person 600, whatever, and it just, the money trickles away. So now I actually have a staff, which helps a lot.
So flexible. You were flexible there at the beginning, it sounds like, to changing your business model a little bit based on what you were seeing and what your actually longer term goals were. So let's stay on that topic of being flexible, right? So in the constantly evolving business landscape, right? How do you stay adaptable and open to change? And then are there any specific strategies you follow to remain innovative?
Yeah, so I think when I think of like staying adaptable and open to change, I feel like that's inherently something that we've embraced here. One of our core values kind of relates to it, is embracing the suck. It's like there's going to be times where this isn't the most fun project, but it does produce a lot of revenue and it produces job security for everyone. So we have to kind of get through it. So I think, you know, and I also would say that the world of video production is always changing. I mean, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, vertical video was unheard of. And now it seems like every other project we have our camera vertical, and we're shooting for Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, stuff like that. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is just being able to and being willing to change. Because if you're not willing to change and you're going to be stuck in your ways, and you're going to tell a client that you're not going to do it this way because you're always going to do it this way, I think that just starts to rub people the wrong way. So we're always open to it. And I think last thing on the change, I think part of it comes with us just being young. You know, we're a younger business, we're younger people, and we tend to be, I think younger people tend to be a little bit more coachable than, you know, a guy in his mid-40s who's been doing this since early 2000s.
So I'm going to show my age here.
Yeah.
What is vertical video?
Vertical video. So horizontal video would be if you had your phone screen like this.
Yeah.
Vertical video would be your phone screen like this. So it would fit the entire screen if you're holding your phone like a traditional way. Yep. So.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So as we were discussing earlier, you said I could kind of ask you whatever. So I've got this question I like to ask, right? Magic wand question. So if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about your business, what would that be?
Does it have to make sense?
No.
I would say no employees. If I could somehow do what I'm doing right now, the production of 3 people, without 3 people, it would make my life a lot easier. Now, granted, that's never going to be the case. And I'm fully aware that I will always, probably from here till the day I die, have some sort of employees or payroll. But I think I've really learned, being 25 and having staff for now 2-3 years, it's like, it's really insane to just think of like being pushed into that leadership role and having to just roll with the punches. Like I'll never forget like the first extremely hard conversation I had to have. And now 3 years later, it seems like I've had 60 of those. So it's definitely like shaped me, but it still challenges me every day.
Yeah, I've got a business lawyer that's a friend of mine. He likes to say, if you've got one employee, you've got employee challenges. So
Yeah. Yeah.
not that that's what you're referring to, but you gave us a good example of kind of what that would allow you to do if you didn't have to deal with some of these things. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Like when I was freelancing, it was great because for one, I had to work harder than I do now, which was not fun. But the beauty of it was I had this like weird flexibility. If I wanted to wake up late and work all night, I could. And now, with our team and stuff, we're on more of a set schedule. So everyone comes into the office at the same time. Most people leave around the same time. And I feel like I need to be there for them. So that like spontaneous ability to just like kind of do whatever you want isn't really there with employees because they rely on me as much as I rely on them. So.
That's good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about the future, right? So would you mind offering us just a little glimpse into the future plans and goals that you have for your business?
Yeah, I think, to keep that really high level, we just have a 10-year BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal called the Jeep moment. And we, in 10 years, want to create a commercial for Jeep. And it sounds crazy. It doesn't sound like it makes sense. But every single day when we come into the office, we are taking projects that push ourselves towards that goal. We are focused on creating edits and everything that all leads up to that goal. So it's kind of that idea of starting with the end in mind. Where do you want to be in 10 years? And then backtrack. And it's just like, what do we have to do to get there? So yeah, if Jeep is listening right now, give me a call.
Well, maybe we could forward them the snippet and see what they think about it.
Yeah. But that's like long term what I see where I see the business being is doing, more brand work and specifically with notable brands like Jeep.
That's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe talk a little bit about what are some of the milestones to get you to that Jeep moment that you expect?
That like in the next 10 years, or you're saying that we've already hit?
You probably haven't hit the Jeep moment yet, but what are the milestones that are going to get you to that Jeep moment?
Well, yeah, I think, the evolution of our business went from real estate video production to corporate video production and now into the product world of video production. And I've realized like the steps along the way are really cool. So like you just kind of have to keep going up that ladder. And for instance, like real estate videos, it's a race to the bottom. Like whoever's going to do it the cheapest, the real estate agent's going to hire you. Cool. Not the business I want to be in. Corporate world, great. A lot more dollars, a lot more value to add, but a lot more like branding and messaging. Like you have to be pretty aligned. You can't just like walk in there like flying by the seat of your pants. Like you have to plan and do. So we did a ton of corporate work and still to this day do a ton of corporate work and the budgets get higher. And then we stepped into the product space and the product space was super, super unique. And it took me a while to figure it out because if I made an ad for this pen and I sold 5 million pens with that ad, this pen company, call it Bic, would pay me whatever for that ad because I generated them so much money, right? So it was like the first time I had that realization of like, there's so much more upside to the product space because you can provide so much value and also like trackable value, right? Like if we make an about us video for a corporate company, there's probably value and the video is going to last forever and it's going to look great and it's going to reflect the brand well. But like, there's not that tangible value of like, I sold you 5 million pens or I sold you 100 Jeep Wranglers, you know, based on that ad. So we're just going to continue to step into that direction and eventually be fully done with the real estate side of things, eventually be fully done with the corporate side of things and really just build our portfolio in that product space. And yeah, continue to just center this business around what we do best, which is product videos, commercial
That's
product.
awesome. Yeah, that's a neat little progression too for people to hear about.
Yeah.
So, realizing that this show is targeted towards people who are going to be in their first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
I would say that the first few years of business is probably a time when a lot of people probably feel a sense of imposter syndrome. Maybe they came out of a role where they were making 50,000 a year and now they're seen as an expert in this role and they were previously seen as an entry level position somewhere else. I think that imposter syndrome is for the most part internal. And I guess I have a little story about this. I'll never forget. I was 22 and it was one of the first videos that we had ever produced. And it was just me. And I went in and I met with this company, Growth Operators, downtown, beautiful. I mean, like 30th floor, beautiful thing. And the CEO, who was about 50, looked at me and he's like, "You're the expert. I don't really have any input. I want you to do what you do best." And I remember being like, so like, not understanding why he was calling me the expert when I realistically thought he was the expert. But then you realize like, he doesn't know anything about video production. And being 22 was actually an upside for like, you're just naturally seen, the younger you are, it's almost like you're naturally seen as a person who knows how to take better photos and take better video. And it was just this whole thing of like, I just had to overcome that because I was told that over and over and over again of like, you're the expert. And I'm like, I really wasn't the expert. So I think in the first 2-3 years of starting a business, I think you just have to embrace the fact that you are the expert and you have to, even if sometimes you don't believe it 100%, live it and believe and just try your best to believe that you are the expert, because I think it speaks volumes when you're working with a client. They can kind of feel that energy. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents for anyone starting their business.
That's great. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today, Chase.
Yeah.
It was really good meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.